You're listening to the After Dark podcast with NT Paranormal. Nothing normal about it.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome back. Sorry we didn't podcast last week. Can't remember. Oh, no, you were sick, I think.
And we had all that stuff going on for the Valentine's dinner.
Yeah, Warehouse 9.
Yeah.
Got a spiffy look going on. You look professional. It's nice.
I'm super
it's
professional.
Nice. Are you?
I am.
Are you an expert in...
Flat earthing?
Flat earthing?
Yes.
Oh, that's good, because today's subject is flat earthing.
Flat earthing.
But Warehouse 9 went really well. It went a lot better than the first time we did it.
Oh, yeah.
I was really happy with the groups that came out. It was kind of funny, though. Like, because people would go to the dinner, and then they would leave and then just not show up, so we got a late start. But I think for, like, the first time ever, some of the guests actually got evidence and stuff. They seemed pretty hyped about it. We let somebody use our camera and take pictures, and she got this really cool picture of the back room with like a halo of light back there that really shouldn't have been back there. That was neat, and everybody kept hearing EVPs, but I don't know that we captured any EVPs. But it was pretty interesting. Like, somebody saw some lights towards the back, and we heard a pretty loud crash at one point in time, but it could have been an animal. But all in all, it was pretty fun, I think.
I tripped over a raccoon.
And a buzzard.
Yeah, I was going back to on the second floor towards the back. The buzzard has a nest, and she's got 2 more eggs. And I was going back there just because the whole group was there. I was going to make sure she wasn't back there. And what I stumbled into was the raccoon trying to get to the vulture eggs, and the vulture just beating the crap out of that raccoon. And the raccoon was not scared of me at all, and it came up to my knee, so I almost trip over it. Then I went up there later, and I wasn't even that close to the nest, and that vulture went after
I don't know
me.
if you saw the Hangman's volunteer page.
She tried to run
but somebody got a picture of the vulture coming out the window, and I wonder if that's when you scared it out. That'd be hilarious.
She wasn't scared of me, though. No, when I got too close to the egg, she was going to attack me. I ran.
I really liked this setup this time, because like last time we did the event, it was really just the investigation. Hey, Mina, how's it going? Hey, Kat, Allie. Looks at, whole gang's here, almost. We're missing a couple of people. I liked the event this time because last time it was just the ghost hunt. People were just coming out for that, and I think our presentation ran a little long last time for that, just being like the only real part of the event. But this time it was pretty cool because they had it set up like a dinner, and they were doing Italian food.
Yeah, what was it? 50 Shades of...
50 Shades of Fear. They do it every Valentine's Day. And I think they're going to do it a little bit bigger next year. But we're kind of talking with them about maybe opening that place up to take people on like private tours or whatever, like during the year. So that might be a thing we do.
Yeah, because those last 2 groups of people really seemed to have fun.
I'm glad they did it the way they did it, because people came for the dinner and then they saw the presentation, and it seemed like if they weren't really feeling it at that point in time,
then they could go home.
They could just kind of like leave, and then only the people that were really into it were the ones that would stay behind, because both nights the people that stayed behind for the actual hunt, they stayed till like almost 2 a.m.
And they were so good. There was no teenagers throwing stuff and acting a fool. Like, people were joking around and stuff. But, like, man, when we did the EVPs, I've never had 2 groups of people that could get so quiet.
Untrained.
Like,
untrained. That was what surprised me about it. Like, if we were doing it with another paranormal group, I could see that.
I think they were even better than like we were in the beginning.
I like how me and you had the same thought about that Noah guy.
Oh yeah, I was like, he should be a ghost hunter.
Yeah, because I was trying to freak him out. I'm like, here, you do the EVPs, and usually that screws with everybody.
He was like, no, okay,
He was like, okay, yeah. He was just totally into it, and he wanted to stay in the rooms by himself.
He was a big brave bear, man.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna get to screw with somebody that night, but that one dude was just an asshat. I'm just here because of her, and they didn't serve me my food right on time.
One guy was grumpy.
He showed up late.
And then they said, one of the workers said that a couple of the girls, after going through the haunted house, were so freaked they decided to just leave. Like,
yeah, well, I don't think our event would have done much better, because like I really liked the second night because they were really jazzed about it. He's like, man, this was way better than the haunted house. He was like, it was actually scarier, but it was a different kind of like scary, was the comment on it. So I was really appreciative of that. So, anybody that's watching that came out, thanks for coming out. We had a good time, and we would love to have you back or come out to another event. Of course, we got the Tyler thing coming up in April.
The Tyler Paracon.
I think the advertisement thing is showing up, right here somewhere in the video.
Oh yeah, when I brought it up, it's like in the chat thing.
Oh, is it
at the bottom? Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we got that going on. I just got confirmation from Rose that she's going to be there.
Oh yeah.
I
hope our table's next to her because we had a lot of fun with.
I demanded that our table was right next to each other. But yeah, that's going to be really cool because we're one of the main speakers for that. And we're still kind of putting together our thing for that. But we're also going to be doing one of the haunted locations. I'm kind of excited about the one we're doing.
Because we've never even been there before.
Yeah. Last time we did the movie, well, the place where the convention's at, the very first year we went out there, we
went to
did
the warehouse.
Yeah, we were VIP.
No, I'm talking
about
the place where we're doing our ghost hunt.
Yeah, it's this like old Victorian. It's this old Victorian house. It's really cool. Apparently, it's got a lot of activity, and I think the owners are going to be there with us, helping host it or whatever. But we'll get the chance to go in there and take people through, and that should be good. But I don't know anything about the house yet. I'm gonna have to get a bunch of information from George and look up. I've got the address, so I can look up stuff ahead of time and see what.
Oh yeah, get some history and stuff
on the internet. So, how do you feel about flat Earth? Do you think the Earth is round, or do you think it's flat?
I think it's flat.
I think it's flat too. I mean, I've seen a lot of convincing arguments on YouTube.
I didn't believe it before, but I was watching this YouTube video and I really started thinking, what if they're right?
They are, because
then after I did,
YouTube is the #1 source for factual information. That is proven. That's a proven statistic.
And we all know that I am a physicist and a geologist and a biologist. And after doing a lot of research in my fields of profession, I realized that, yes, the Earth is flat and it's only 4,000 years old.
And vaccines don't work.
They're just poison.
So YouTube is just this like cesspool of people that can just say whatever the hell they want, just like us. We have a channel on YouTube and we say whatever we want and people listen and they think we're experts in things. And that's not necessarily true. I can't believe in 2020, 2019, 2018, recently, that flat Earth is a thing people think.
But weren't you telling me recently that it's actually kind of dying out?
Well, it's not dying out, but it is on the decline, what I noticed. I guess a few different flat Earth documentaries have come out that have put those people in a bad light, rightfully so. But
what was the one we watched? Behind the Curve.
Behind the Curve is probably my favorite one. I really like it because it really seems like it's trying to be neutral on the topic while making a flat earther documentary. But the problem is the subject matter makes them like paint themselves in their own bad light. I mean,
yeah, they really just kind of let them do their thing.
I really liked it though because they were the main person they were following around was Mark K. Sargent, which is probably one of the two top biggest names in flat Earth research
and I'd never heard these names before we watched that documentary.
Oh really? No, I knew who Mark Sargent was. I didn't know who Patricia Steer or Bob Nodal was. I did know who Mark Sargent was. And he's the flat Earth thing has got enough steam to it that like he can just walk out in everyday society and people know who he is. And
people, not me, but people.
It's kind of a scary thing when you think about it. That something is, I don't know. Like I have mixed feelings about it because the thing is I don't know. It's kind of for the end of the discussion, like what my thoughts on it are. But like as we're talking about it, I mean, think about the fact that. What if nobody ever questioned science, or what if nobody ever questioned the world around them? We would never learn new things. Like there are things in the world where science is wrong, or the science is incomplete or inconclusive. Things like that.
Science is always kind of ongoing.
I mean, and that's kind of where we are with the paranormal. I mean, yeah, science proves a lot of stuff wrong and kind of scoffs at it. But there are some still unexplained things out there, and unless you keep pushing that button and keep checking it out, you'll never progress. And so in a way, people that are doing kind of like the flat earth research or looking into things like that, you have to give them credit for being inquisitive minds. Like there's I don't want to say scientifically minded people in the sense that they know anything about science at this point, but scientifically minded in the things that in the sense that they want to question how things work, how things are, push the status quo. I mean,
we also
that's a good trait
noted
to have.
we also noted that a lot of them were very intelligent.
I was surprised at how intelligent some. I mean, I'm not surprised how stupid some of them are, but I was really surprised at how sane and like not. I think a lot of people are intelligent, like, but how educated they were. I guess like they were educated in a lot of things. When I was watching some of the interviews and some of the people I've talked to in chat rooms and things like that. But it was really funny because like almost the way that we're kind of looking at the flat Earth thing, like it's almost a joke. Hey Amelia, how's it going, man? Like it's almost a joke when we're talking about it. What's funny is, and I wrote an article about it last year, and they look at what we do is a joke. And that kind of strikes me as weird. So they're into this sort of like fringe sort of science thing, where they're ostracized. Nobody believes them. People are throwing rocks at them, telling them they're stupid.
Did anyone literally throw a rock at them?
I would. If they were walking down the road, I'd say, "Look, the rock's fucking round," and just hit them in the head with it. But they've got that going for them. But in the article I was writing about is like what percentage of people who believe in flat Earth also believe in paranormal, and it was way low. Like the percentage was like almost it was like a sliver in the little Venn diagram of flat earthers and paranormal believers or whatever.
Yeah.
And like and when I was talking to him, like a lot of the responses I got in the poll I took across the flat earth websites was, "No, that's stupid. There's not any science or anything behind it."
Well, and it's interesting because they are very science based, like as a group,
which is different than the paranormal community. Like like with us, it's weird. More people are more ready to believe that ghosts are a thing, and you have this big group. You have this big community of people that go and hunt ghosts, but most of them aren't science minded. They believe in psychic abilities and powers and things like that, and that is accepted outside the sphere of the people that do that. They're like, "Oh yeah, that's a thing." Right? But then you get flat earth people who believe, something that the majority of the world thinks is just completely ridiculous. And then outside of that sphere, people think, "Oh, this is completely ridiculous," but they are very science focused, science centric. So when you talk about things like paranormal or Bigfoot or things like that, the margin of people that subscribe to that is ridiculously small.
It's just so weird to me.
It's backwards. And
how can you think the Earth is flat, but that ghosts couldn't possibly be real? Like they're equal levels of wacky.
Well, it's just weird. It's weird looking from the outside because of how we classify the data. Because to them, they don't see the flat Earth thing like we view. Our group views our field of paranormal different than everybody else in our field views it. They see it as just something normal. So the flat earthers, they think the same way. They're like, "No, this is just actually reality. This is how science works." And, we're on a disk that's just constantly moving up, and that's what creates gravity.
Yet all the other planets we can visualize are around.
When I was watching Behind the Curb, there was like, the reason I started watching it wasn't just because I wanted to crap on flat Earth. I thought it was a documentary that was going to try to convince me And
yeah, I did too.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm gonna watch this, and I'm gonna try to buy into every bit of evidence they present and do research.
Yeah, I did
and if,
that.
And if I can't immediately disprove it, then I'm going to, I'm gonna see what buying into flat Earth is like.
I did that initially. I went to, I forget what tangent I was on, but I went to look. I was looking up something else, and I came across a flat Earth video, and I was like, okay. I sat myself down. And I was like, okay, now pretend you're not you for a minute.
Right.
And really consider everything they're saying. And at the end of that, I still found them loony.
The thing is I love that documentary because they contradict themselves like every 10 minutes. But I think the first bits of, they introduce you to Mark Sargent, and and they're showing you like the players and kind of like what they do, and but as soon as the first bit of evidence came up, like the smoking gun, because Mark K. Sargent, like, this is the smoking gun. He brings up a map of all the flights that are going on globally in the world, and he goes, "You'll never see anything pass across the southern hemisphere."
And then
while he's sitting there talking about it, and you're watching the screen, you see a plane cross the southern hemisphere, but the way the argument was brought up, I was like, I didn't know if that was true or false. I was like, okay, well, he's been watching the screen, I'll go check it out.
Yeah, I thought maybe there's another reason they don't.
Yeah, but the documentary did a good job of like, okay, he made this claim, let's go follow up on it. The person making the documentary did, and I didn't have to go look it up. They went and showed it, and that, and then I remember, and that also, Jared had interviewed the flat earther on his show.
Oh God, I love that he was like, they don't calculate for curvature of the Earth when you're flying, and he was like, I went to flight school. It's like, holy shit, dude! Why didn't you tell us you went to flight school?
Yeah, it's just like out of nowhere. Like, it wasn't even a burn. Like, he was trying to be totally open about it, and then the dude's like trying to tell him how aviators navigate, and he's like, that's not right.
It almost seemed like a zinger he was waiting for, but I know that's not true because I know the guy.
I feel like he said that. I feel like he was like, this is a good opportunity to interview somebody cool, but he already had stuff in his back pocket. Like, he wasn't very forthcoming about who he was and what his past was.
I just don't think he went in with the intent to embarrass the guy, because he really does try to be fair with his podcast.
I don't think he was trying to embarrass him. But
what's the name of his podcast? We can plug that. Someone You Should Know.
Yeah, Someone You Should
It's
Know.
a really good podcast. We're on like episode 6 or something.
I haven't seen a new episode in a while.
I don't know, but
I need to go look at it.
It's a quality freaking podcast.
We were on it.
Yeah, it's on. I know it's.
I don't think our episode was very good, but
I know it's on iTunes for sure. I don't know where else.
It's on everything.
Okay.
It's on everything that we're on.
But yeah, it's Jared Herzog does that.
Yeah, but yeah, he was talking about, no, the flight paths are curved. They just don't look that way on the computer.
Well, because it's a flat freaking screen.
Yeah, you're taking a three-dimensional thing and you're turning it into a two-dimensional thing. And, I think people look at a map of, the Earth and the way it's like all laid out, according to the lateral, to latitude. Mm-hmm. And, it's not distorted, but really, size comparison and things like that, it's much different in reality when you're like looking at the globe. But the Mark Sargent, it's really funny how he kind of like rose to the top of that, because it was really somebody that found like a niche and he likes it there. Are you passing out over there?
Oh no, I have something in my eye. I was just trying to get it to kind of water.
Not surprised. So, Sargent, he's from Whidbey Island. And
where?
Whidbey Island.
Where's that?
North. It's in the north. It's always in the north. You would think flat Earth would be a southerner thing. It's like, man, we didn't want to join the Union and the Earth is flat. Screw you,
Sounds about right.
It sounds like something Trey Crowder would actually believe. He'd just be like...
someone who sounds like Trey Crowder?
Yeah. No, Trey Crowder himself. He's a cool guy, but he looks like he believes in flat Earth.
Oh my God, no he doesn't.
He lives with his mom. She's a home economics teacher. And he did go to college. He went to Western Washington University. but he got kicked out for making illegal fireworks.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
That's
If you're going to
awesome.
get kicked out of college, it should be for making illegal fireworks. Before he was a flat earther, he was making his living at video game competitions. He won a pinball competition.
Oh, is that deaf, dumb, and blind kid? Does he play mean pinball?
He does. His name should be Tommy. But then, according to his account, he just picked up a flat Earth book one day and was like, "Hey, what is this about?" Because I like the way it started. Because I said, "How did you get into flat Earth?" And it was the most typical story you've ever heard. Well, I had all these other conspiracy books on my shelf. Like we faked the moon landing, and is Bigfoot real? And who's the second shooter on Kennedy? Right? Like he had all these conspiracy things, and then he gets to the flat earth thing. He's like, and that seemed like the most ridiculous out of all of them, so I read it. And basically what it translates to me is he's like, what is the easiest thing for me to capitalize on for a YouTube channel? And it was that. But there were so many points like in the documentary where it was almost set up where they're like, or they almost like pulled him aside and they're like, hey man, do you really believe this, or are you just doing it for the videos? And he had this really striking comment because they asked, because it followed him to this like big, huge flat Earth conference, and he's like the flat Earth Jesus for these guys, and
Yeah,
there's kids. There's
he's-
like, my
he's
parents
their
pulled me out of school to come
guru.
here, and like they pull him aside and they're like, so if somebody presented evidence to you proving that the earth was round, that you actually accept, like you found out tomorrow that the earth is really round and you really believed it, what would you do? And he flat out said, he's like, even if I tried to walk away from all this, I don't think I could. Because and he's right. It makes you a social pariah, because like one of my big observations around it is like once people buy into something like ridiculous, because it made me think about something that we got going on now with climate change and our politicians and stuff. But once you buy into something like that, and then you push so hard on it that you develop a community, you develop an entire backing for it. People have dumped money in it. Like one of the people, the Bob Noble guy, he spent $20,000 on equipment to do that experiment. And when the experiment screwed up, he was just like, no, I don't accept those results. We got to figure out how we screwed up the experiment, even though it showed what it was supposed to do. People have invested time, money, emotion into it, so that if you walk away from it, they're going to hate you. You're not going to be...
they're going to hate you, and everyone else is going to hate you because you were involved in that movement.
Yeah. Like you can't just go back to the normal community and be like, oh, my bad.
Yeah.
They're gonna. You're always
literally never gonna live that down.
Yeah, you're always gonna be the guy that thought the Earth was flat for a while. So these people have bought into it, and I think at a certain degree, they might believe it at first, but there's only so far you can get into that before the evidence is gonna prove you wrong. Because spoiler alert, guys, the Earth is round. It's not even round; it's oval. But.
The Earth is pear-shaped, so it's okay if you are too.
Look at it this way. Okay, so we're doing all this paranormal research. Oh, maybe our group is a little bit different, but let's talk about any other Ghost Adventures.
Okay.
Right? The Ghost Adventures crew. What if they're filming their show? They're like in their 8th season now. They're making fucking bank.
They're like in their 14th season.
Oh yeah, whatever. But I'm just saying, they're really far in their seasons. They're making bank. If you get your paranormal equipment on their show, which you got to pay $2,000 to get your equipment on their show, you're going to sell paranormal equipment to paranormal groups. Like, they're that big.
Yeah.
He's got book deals, everything. So they're this far into that, and they go on some case that completely disproves once and for all that ghosts aren't a thing. Do you think that they would just tell us that and back away?
Because they're making bank.
I don't think any group really could. I don't think any group that is taking the stance that ghosts are real could. Because that seems to be the goal of most paranormal groups, is to prove that ghosts exist. because they believe ghosts exist. That's never been our goal. Our goal has been we go investigate paranormal activity and report back what it is.
Yeah, what evidence we found.
But we have
nothing, but this is evidence.
Yeah, we've never had the goal of we're proving ghosts exist. We're just giving results of investigations. If we've set ourselves up to the point that we could go to 30 investigations and never find anything. We could prove everything wrong, and that's still, that doesn't set us back because that's what we're there to do. Or if we find evidence, we could find it 30 times in a row and still put it out there, and it doesn't set us back because we're not trying to prove ghosts don't exist either. We're just reporting. But I think there's a lot of groups out there, they're stuck in that same loop as flat earth or climate deniers. Look, you have all these politicians that are talking about climate change not being real. And okay, maybe the data wasn't that good 20 years ago, 10 years, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever. I mean, we had an inkling, but it was inconclusive back then. Now we know the earth is cooking.
Yeah.
But they have been in office so long and pushing so hard against this thing, and their entire base is completely behind because they get voted in office. So if they piss off their own bases, then they can't stay in office as elected officials. So if they suddenly flip, if Ted Cruz comes out tomorrow and he's like, "Hey guys, climate change is a thing, y'all. We got to get with the EPA and change stuff. We got to raise gas taxes. We got to go to solar power. Elon Musk has to be our new savior." And he's gonna lose he's just gonna lose his job.
Yeah. Emilio says if that happened with the paranormal group, then the objective of the show would change to disproving the science that disproves ghosts.
Right, yeah, and that's what that guy did. Bob Nodal, right? This guy's it's so nuts. The guy is a really smart engineer, like what we were talking about with Flat Earth. This dude is like higher level than me, smart in engineering, and he spent $20,000 on a laser gyroscope. It's the most accurate telemetry thing out there. And what he was wanting to do was he wanted to basically set it up and prove that there was no movement on the telemetry, because inertia would cause it to kind of rock back and forth. It'd be like if you just held a pendulum, right? Just basics. So he spends $20,000 on this thing, sets it up, and there's a 15-degree drift as soon as he boots it up. And he's like, that's kind of weird, because when you set those up, science dictates that you're going to get a 15-degree drift because of the spinning of the earth and the tilting of the axis of the planet. It doesn't, like, we actually rotate like this, not like this. It's at an angle. And so he's like, "Oh, I've got a 15-degree drift on this piece of equipment." His conclusion was, we screwed something up in the experiment, or something is faulty with the equipment. He would not accept the results of the test. And then his buddy Jared Campanella.
What was the other one they did where they set up the flat?
Yeah, Jared Campanella set that up, and that was when they were going to the conference, and they went in 4-mile increments setting up these posts on what is supposed to be a
flat terrain.
Yeah, a level grade. It's supposed to be at the same altitudes or whatever. So they set up these posts, and the first experiment didn't work because he was using a laser, and the light got too big, so it couldn't do it accurate. And then they got the idea. They're like, okay, we're going to use posts, just do holes in them and shine a light down at the end. You should be able to see the light through all the holes, because they would line up, and it would just,
if the earth was flat.
Yeah, kind of like the eclipse thing, where you hold the paper or whatever. And so it's that. And the way the curvature of the earth is that in 4-mile increments, it goes so many degrees or whatever. So at the third post, you shouldn't be able to see it. So they're setting it up, and they do it, and he shines the light at the end, and they don't see the light. And he's like, "Oh, something must be wrong," or whatever. And they're sitting there going back and forth on the radio. And finally, the dude radios back. He says, "Hey, Jared, just hold the light up over your head like this, just to see if we can even see it from this far." And as soon as he went up like that, they could see it. Yeah. And they just have this dumbfound look on their face. And they're like, it must be like some weeds or something blocking. the light. Like, any excuse other... Like, they set up the experiment.
Yeah, it's a good experiment, too. They did a good job.
Yeah, they did a good job of setting up the experiment and getting it to work the way it was supposed to, but then they didn't accept the results of their own experiment.
So what's the opposite of confirmation bias? Is that cognitive dissonance?
Yes. Oh, wow, you were super smart.
Ha ha ha.
No, you are. I couldn't think of the word. You asked me that, and I was already going through the words in my head, and I didn't put it together. Yes, it is cognitive dissonance. It's just where...
They believe that so strongly that any proof against it, they can't believe.
But that's not much different than any religion. I mean, at this point, Flat Earth, it should maybe be a religion.
Don't say that. They'll get tax-exempt status.
Well, if the Scientologists can do it, I don't see why they shouldn't be able to. I should get tax-exempt status. I should start a religion. How do we do that? How do we get tax-exempt status?
I don't know. We should work on that, though.
That's an idea, because we do deal with the paranormal. So,
the Church of Ghosts aren't a thing.
Yeah. Atheism, can it be considered a church because they don't have a deity that they worship?
Yeah, they can't be considered a church. And also because they're not one cohesive group.
Right. Yeah, there's too many.
But atheists...
Neither is Christianity.
But atheists hate it when you call it a religion. So, I don't think they'd even try for tax-exempt status.
I don't know. I think they deserve it, though.
Yeah.
Whether I believe that or not, I think they deserve that. But, yeah, I don't see... In those aspects, I don't see much difference in a lot of the community. Once you, I mean, that's a good thing to remember, is once you buy into something to a certain level where you are a spokesperson for that thing you bought into.
Yeah, you're pretty much locked in at that
point. Like even me to an extent with this, like I run my mouth. So it's like the mono wavelength thing. You remember we did that for like 3 years, never got anything. Now, it's orbs are dust, orbs are dust, orbs are dust. And orbs are dust. Like
or bugs.
Or bugs, or camera malfunctions, or moisture in the air. But we proved that, and I was so 100% sure of it, but we do have anomalies.
Aaron wants to start a cult anyway. Do cults get... I don't think cults get taxes.
Cults don't get status.
Instead of status, they get put on a government watch list.
Yeah, their facilities get burned down. People take away their guns. Even though, Second Amendment, you have the right to a reasonable militia.
Poor Branch Davidians.
We need to do a show on them. I know you and Allie wanted to do one on cults.
Yeah.
I think Branch Davidian was part of that show.
No, because we'd have to talk about it because we live in Texas, but they're not technically a death cult because their intent was not to die. That was something that happened to them because of government overreach. And now Julie is quoting REM lyrics.
Yeah. See, Patricia Steer was also in that documentary.
Is she the one that had the weird self-realization?
Yeah, and she's a good example of exactly what we were talking about. So Patricia Steer had that podcast, Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, and it was just like I wanted to gouge my eyes out just trying to listen to that. It was horrible. But she used to have Mark Sargent on all the time, and I think he was like in love with her, and she didn't love him back. I think that has a lot to do with what happened. But she was a huge advocate for the flat Earth thing. She was just pushing it, and I mean other conspiracies, like every conspiracy you can think of, she had on her.
That's
show.
the other thing we noticed about all these people is once you believe in one conspiracy,
you believe in all.
So much easier to believe in the others.
Except ghosts.
Yeah.
Except ghosts.
They believe false flags and trauma actors and that vaccines are bad, but ghosts are... I don't understand why that one's weirder.
That's just people trying to make money on TV. I think what it is anybody that seems to be making money off of some kind of information, they don't want to...
But they make bank off those YouTube videos.
Yeah, Mark K. Sargent solely makes his living off of flat Earth videos and flat Earth discussions. But Patricia Steer, whatever happened to her, just one day, she just up and dropped social media. Like, she deleted her account, she deleted her podcast, she deleted her YouTube channels, all of it. She just completely disappeared off the internet. Like, to the point people thought maybe she got murdered or something. Like, people... She
had a religious epiphany.
Something happened. And I know she just recently put out a book about... about the experience. Like, she did some kind of interview, and it became a book, and I can't remember the title of that book. It's by Patricia Steere, though. I don't know if she just suddenly... I don't know if she stopped believing the flat Earth thing, but she doesn't promote it anymore. She's no longer a figurehead for it.
Well, she did have that moment in the car where she was like, maybe I'm crazy.
Well, she goes, I wonder if people who are doing this thing just, have that, what you were describing with cognitive dissonance, if they just suddenly realize I believe in this thing so hard that even if they show me evidence, like, are we just being naive? And she's like, I wonder if I'm being naive. And then she, like, sits there for a second and she goes, but I know I'm not.
Yeah, then she just kind of snaps out of it.
Like, that's not me, But I feel like what we were seeing was... she was actually struggling with it. Like, I think she was so far into it, and she didn't believe it. I think she wanted out.
It's hard to see from the inside.
I think she was exploiting that community to try to make money on her podcast, and I think that her podcast and all that wasn't big enough that it was worth it anymore to be that ostracized by everybody else. But to that point, she stepped out of it. People still think she's a complete moron.
I mean, coming out as gay is one thing, or for me, coming out as a liberal. But I can't even imagine if I came out as a flat earther.
Well, to your family, you pretty much came out as a round earther.
No, they were never flat earther. But, like, I just can't imagine sitting in a room with my parents who are both, like, into science. My mom in the medical field and then my dad with, like, history stuff. I just can't imagine telling them I thought the earth was flat. Like,
so what religion did you grow up? Because I've heard, I wanted to say horror stories.
Southern Baptist.
Oh, I thought y'all were something else.
No, Southern Baptist.
But in your family, like, to some degree, creationists or whatever?
Pretty much everyone in my family is a creationist.
Maybe I've got my definition screwed up on, like, what a creationist is.
But being a creationist doesn't mean you're a young earther. Most Christians...
Okay, that's where I'm screwed up. Okay, I think creationists are young earthers.
Most Christians are creationists, as in they believe that Adam and Eve's story.
Right.
They don't believe in they don't believe evolution is how we got here.
Right.
But young earthers are a really small sect of that.
Right.
But I grew up real near that Creation Science Museum, and more than my parents.
The one in Glen Rose?
Yeah.
What's it called?
The Creation Evidence Museum.
Glen Rose, okay.
Which is a misnomer because he's not just a creationist. He's a young earther. But growing up around, like, listening to him talk is more what influenced me to think that, because he really had, he had all these, and I was really young.
Half what we think are facts.
Yeah, he impressed me with his knowledge, and I was like, this guy knows, because he's a very smart guy.
Yeah.
And this was his dad, I think. He the son runs the museum now, but yeah, he had me just convinced because he had all these facts. He had, like, this printout. He had all this proof.
Yeah, I mean, he's even got like footprints that show that, like, he, where.
Yeah, it's if you look up the Paluxy Man-Track incident is what it's called, and what he had found was what looked like a human footprint inside of a dinosaur footprint. And he basically had it dated, and they were from the same time period.
Right.
But what it was a different kind of dinosaur track that had eroded to look like a human footprint. And yeah,
trace fossils.
And Ken Ham, the guy that runs the Noah's Ark thing, the guy that debated with Bill Nye, he even said, he was like, "Oh no, y'all have gone too far."
Which is so weird because at least, not saying that guy's right, but at least the guy in Glen Rose has, like, I get the footprint is wrong, but at least he had some kind of tangible evidence that he was trying to.
He also has a magenta greenhouse where he's trying to emulate a pre-flood environment and grow lizards into dinosaurs. I'm not joking.
That is awesome. Because
what he thinks dinosaurs, because, basically lizards never stop growing. Mm-hmm. He thought that, because in the Bible humans lived up to 1,000 years back then.
Right.
So according to the Bible.
Right.
He thought lizards would too. So what he thinks dinosaurs are just lizards in the pre-flood environment with more oxygen and more water and a different sort of skyline that they were able to grow thousands of years old and eventually became dinosaurs.
Oh my God, that sounds so awesome.
So yeah, he ran the museum out of one trailer for a really long time, and as he made money, he started building onto it. And the most recent thing he built was the greenhouse that's supposed to simulate a pre-flood environment.
Right, because he's got a degree in
Crazy.
Biochemistry, biophysics, things like that. So he knows what the pre-flood environment was actually like.
And not that I even believe, not even most Christians I know believe that the whole entire earth flooded.
Right.
Most of them think that area just flooded. But he seriously believes the entire earth flooded.
There's not enough water? on the earth to, we're in the middle of a climate crisis right now. Like, our polar ice caps are fucking melting. We're cooking at this point.
Well, yeah,
but
they
even
did
if
the math,
100% of the Earth's
Yeah.
ice melted,
the ocean only goes up by like 30 feet.
right?
If all of them melt.
Which is catastrophic, by the way. That
Yeah.
30 feet doesn't sound like a lot, but that's catastrophic.
But living in Cleburne, you're like 500 feet above sea level. It does not matter to you.
Well, not drowning.
What I'm saying is, okay, so all the polar ice caps melt. The oceans go up by 30 feet. Yeah, Florida's screwed, California's screwed, New York's screwed, whatever. But that's still, there's just not enough water to flood everything so much that the boat has to land on top of a mountain.
Right. There's 100.
Where did all the water go after that? Where did it all come from?
It evaporated into space, but since the Earth is flat and space isn't real,
The moon is an artificial hollow base for reptilians.
I know people
I have heard
that really believe that. You know what though? I was watching this one. I hate to say this. Oh my god, this is embarrassing. I did watch a documentary that was talking about the moon, going to the moon and things like that. They did not think that the moon landings were faked. But they do believe that there's a conspiracy there, that there are aliens on the moon, and NASA,
there are aliens on the moon now.
Okay, so they had these really cool, really high definition pictures of the moon that were taken in the 70s by NASA. And high def pictures back then are different than high def pictures now, so they're still kind of fuzzy, but they were really good pictures. There was on the part of the moon that we
something that looked like a man-made structure, right?
There is stuff that looks like man-made structures. Now, I'm not saying it's not.
Well, you
natural,
do find things in nature that look like man-made structures.
And it was that's like the mud fossils thing.
But there are currently aliens on the moon. Because the Chinese,
oh yeah,
they spilt water bears
all over the moon.
Yeah, they spilt tardigrades all over the moon.
And apparently, they can survive in an low oxygen environment.
They're like the only thing that can survive in the vacuum of space.
Yeah,
and they go dormant and they can come back to life. So,
but apparently, they're thriving on the moon. Like,
oh no, I thought they said they were dormant.
No,
but
they were dormant on the ship in the back, because I don't think people realize once you get close to a large body, there is an atmosphere. It's not
the same as ours.
It's not enough for us to breathe. You're talking like a 0.06% oxygen level. Like there's it may as well be a vacuum. Like it would kill us, but it's not like the movies where you just immediately like explode. Like they prove that's not a thing. You would just suffocate and freeze to death.
Yeah.
Because there's enough oxygen that it doesn't like suck everything out. Like you can hold your breath and survive a couple of seconds in the vacuum of space. It's weird.
But I wonder if we're going to go back and just find little tardigrade cities on the moon.
That would be awesome.
Or the tardigrades are going to fly back here.
Didn't South Park have an episode about water bears?
Yeah, they did.
I don't think I've seen that one. I kind of remember it, but I don't remember how the episode went. But that's like the mud fossils thing. Though there's things on the moon that look like structures. There's that rock face on Mars that everybody says is the face, even though NASA went back and fucking scanned it again. I feel bad for NASA having to go back and do work they've already done just to prove a minority of idiots wrong. Because they're like, no, look, we scanned it again. It's definitely not a face. And they're just, whatever, you're covering it up.
Julie just said the moon has been infected. Yeah, they did. They like accidentally dropped like a glass container of water bears on the moon.
I think they meant to leave it there, but I don't think they meant for him to get out. But then I guess whatever probe they have there or whatever was like monitoring it. And they're like, oh, this thing is growing. Look it up. Water bears on the moon. It's hilarious.
Tardigrades, but I don't know. TARTIGRAD.
I'm sure it'll come up with water
anyway.
bears.
But yeah, what we had been looking into were reasons why the government would.
Yeah, that's the okay. So you think there's this conspiracy or whatever, but every conspiracy I've ever looked into, somebody has a reason for it. The Kennedy assassination, people are like, oh, it's conflicting party. There was somebody had some kind of a motive or whatever.
Or like with the trauma actors, they want to take your guns away. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, for this reason, and it's usually like political stuff. But all the flat Earth people that I ever talked to, or in any videos, I know you came up with some reasons that they think it in the car, but I never could come up with it. Where, okay, so
why does the government give a shit?
Yeah. So the Earth is flat. NASA's lying to us, and all the countries of the world, every single country in the world, is in on this conspiracy,
which is crazy because
we can't coordinate. Trump just used the Russians to win an election, and that's fucking chaos. That's between about like 20 people.
Well, I looked at something one day that said like it was a percentage basis of how well you can keep a conspiracy, and basically if more than 2 people know about it, you're boned.
Yeah, it goes to like 10. It drops considerably. It's that saying: if one person knows about something, it's a secret. If 2 people. No,
2 can keep a secret if the other person is dead.
Yeah. I just pulled a George Bush right there.
Fool
me once.
But so the reasons I came up with are one is that this is the one that is the majority of the beliefs, is that they want to disprove the Bible. It's that old theory that the government is satanic. And I've
never heard the government is satanic. I've always heard the government is of God.
They talk about that weird place they go in California, the place from House of Cards or whatever. That's a real place. The Grove.
That's a thing that they're not Satanists. But.
No, but people think anyone who does anything sort of ritualized activity.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I said Satanists. I meant devil worshippers, not Satanists.
Yeah, Church of Satan. I'm saying satanic, not Satanist.
Yeah.
But yes, there's a large group of the people that think that the government is satanic in backing. Or that they just don't want you to believe in the Bible. And they insist that there are scriptures in the Bible proving the earth is flat. Like God talking about the winds blowing from the 4 corners, which really doesn't prove the earth is flat, even biblically.
They were talking about the 4 nations of Judah.
I know, but people don't look into the Bible when they read it. They take it at face value or they listen to what the preachers say. But so by making us believe the earth is round, basically it's undermining your faith. That's reason number 1. The most popular reason.
That just seems like a huge reason for a population that we don't even have a unified religion among our people. Like
America does.
Yeah, but America's not the. But that's my point. That's why that is such a weird one for me because, okay, America
but
is
China's an atheistic nation in total.
Right. So. Okay, and I mean I know the real answer, but I'm trying to explore it in discussion is what I'm doing. Don't give me that look like you're judging me. But the thing is okay. So let's say I don't know what the percentage is, but say America is mostly Christian, Europe is mostly Christian, and then some of the Middle East is some kind of offshoot of Jesus, Yahweh.
A lot of them are Islam. Islam.
Right. But that's all the same thing. You still have China, Africa, all these other things. So why are these
other countries participating?
Why are these other countries participating in keeping this big secret so that it doesn't disrupt those religions, which pretty much disrupt themselves? I mean,
Julie says, I think the Bible is a great book of myths and study. Yeah, but these are people that fully believe that this is
the word for
word of God.
Yeah, when I was growing up, I always saw.
Man, I say God like a Southern preacher. It is the word.
It
of
is the
God.
word of God. Because when I was growing up, the Bible was always, everybody always said, it's a history book.
Yeah.
It's a history book. I had never ever once heard anybody say that this is like a book of metaphors or
No.
it's.
Well, you were Baptist, right?
Yeah. Southern
Baptists believe that it is the handed down
Word of God.
God inspired these people to write it. It is.
Right.
Now there are parables in the Bible. Jesus told a lot of parables, but they think the rest is literal.
I don't understand how, even if we're just talking about the free countries, I don't see how 92 different countries could keep a conspiracy like this under wraps since you're talking like
I don't know,
we knew the earth was round. Okay,
Before Columbus?
before Columbus, but let's just go back in our nice little whitewashed version of history where we found out the earth is round with Columbus. Even just going that's 1492. So how long?
In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean. blue
Right,
and
well, that's why I went
near
back to
the
just
Santa
Columbus.
Maria.
But 1492 to 2020, how long has the entirety of Earth kept this secret?
Well, but I was going to add that the flat earther thing is primarily an American craziness.
Yeah, no, but I don't think there's anybody from any other country.
There are people. It's mostly first world countries that think that buy into this conspiracy.
Flat Earth is a first world problem.
Yeah, but it's primarily American, and I think they're thinking from the American stance of logic,
Right.
where religion is something the government doesn't want you to
I
have.
think in the back of most Americans' head, they think America is the world.
Yeah, they really do. So the second reason, crap. What was the second reason? Oh, it's money. They want people to put money into the funding for space, and they're actually siphoning that into other things the government doesn't want us to know about.
Right. Okay. So it's an embezzling scam.
Yeah, it's a money laundering.
So I donate my money and my taxes and stuff like that to NASA, but really the government is pulling out of the NASA cookie jar.
Yeah.
Secretly.
So
NASA's a front. It's a.
And then the third reason, which goes along with both of these, and these are the only reasons I found, is that it's a power play to assert American dominance and our imperialism over space.
Now, see, I can buy into that, but I don't know how that works because.
And that other countries are too afraid to. They're not going to say anything, even if they don't care if people know, because America runs the world.
But how is dominant? Okay, so how is dominance over space a thing that's a goal in this? Because
the Earth is flat, Brad. Stop with your logic.
Well, they think the Earth is flat, and they think there's a dome. Most of them think there's a dome, so there is no space outside of their right. So how does America and so the people that are conspiring would also know this in theory?
Yeah.
So how would they assert dominance over something that doesn't exist?
No, it's a perceived dominance. They want everyone else to perceive that we are dominant over space.
What do these people think when like fucking meteors hit the ground or
It's NASA now, Space Force. No, Space Force is a separate entity.
Yeah, Space Force is.
It's more like a military.
It is.
branch.
It is a branch. We have a fucking American Space Force. We live in a.
We live in the future, and it is exactly as dystopian as
See,
everyone thought it would be.
When I was a kid, I really wanted to grow up in either Star Trek or Star Wars be our future. But instead, I grew up in it's Spaceballs. It's fucking Spaceballs.
It's Spaceballs meets Brave New World.
It's horrible.
Or 1984.
Yeah. It's all of those things just wrapped into one.
Those were basically the three big
What was
reasons.
the second one again? Because I have...
The second one was the money.
Oh, the money. Yeah, I want to explore that. So that to me actually makes sense. Like of all the BS out there, reasons for conspiracy, the money thing makes more sense because it's a way to cover your embezzlement. And if you've got scientific backing behind it, let's pretend for a minute that we actually the Earth is flat and this is all a conspiracy and they've set up NASA and you have Elon Musk and China's got their own space program.
Yeah, and people are donating to Elon Musk instead of using
and
it.
Russia's got their own space program. It's a way for that would explain why all the nations get together and do it because then they can start their own space programs and funnel their
yeah,
own money to what they need to without having to explain what they're spending the money on.
And instead of exploring space, they're funneling the money into what? Well, weapons of war.
So here's the reason I want to touch on it. Here's where that conspiracy totally breaks down, because the amount of our budget that goes to NASA is less than 10%. The amount that we spend on military, our military
99.9%.
America does like 20% more than any other country in the planet. Oh no, it was 50% more than any other country. We put in $120 billion into our military last year. $120 billion.
Well, have you been taken over yet?
Obviously,
we needed it.
Went straight to the military. Okay, so we know $120 billion went to the military. If we, just shooting a number out there, if we spend $1 billion on the space program, that's fucking peanuts compared to everything else. So there's no point in doing the embezzling, because all they would have to do is allocate that $1 billion to the military and spend it on whatever the hell they wanted.
Julie says, do hollow earthers belong with flat earthers? They do, in the sense that they're equally insane, but they have wildly varying
And
beliefs.
they think the earth is round. They think it's hollow.
Yeah.
They think all the space stuff is true. They just don't believe in all the geology stuff. It's in all these groups, it's like they're ignoring one part of
They're
science.
ignoring one huge fucking chunk of science.
They're like, all this other stuff is totally possible, but this branch of science can suck it. And I like the hollow earth thing. I think that's fun.
There's hollow earth, hollow moon, flat earthers. There's just a bunch of freaking
the
whack
moon's not
jobs.
hollow?
Oh my god!
I thought the moon was hollow. They proved that, the Chinese, when they went up there. They like drilled in. They found out it had like a gooey Cadbury center.
They drilled in. It popped like a balloon and just shot off into space. Yeah, it made that noise too. Yeah, that's what happened. You remember on Night Vale where there's the guy that thinks that the Earth is a balloon and you can't remove signs because it'll poke a hole in the surface?
No, the money thing makes sense until you actually apply some logic to it.
it.
Because the amount of money globally, like you take every country's space program and every privatized space program that there is, if you take all that money and put it together in a ball, it's nothing compared to the amount of money that we just say, don't fucking worry about what we're spending that on.
It's still a lot of money to be able to secretly do stuff with while asserting your dominance over the masses by lying to them.
I don't know. It's a lot of money to us because we don't have
Any money?
any money. But when you're talking about just allocating funds on our national budget, I mean, our deficit right now is all the way up to like $1 trillion something, and none of that has anything to do with the space program. Can you tell me what we spend our taxes on? Like I know 120 billion went to the military, but I don't know how much they spent on tanks, planes, paying soldiers,
GI bills,
sick leaves,
stuff like that.
any of that crap.
Obviously, they're not putting any of it into the VA.
Yeah, so it's if the government wants to allocate money to some black ops fund that they don't want anybody tracing, all they have to do is say, yeah, this is mine. I'm taking it's what are we going to do? I mean,
that's why we have a Second Amendment, so we can take our guns and we can fight them Black Op helicopters and them atom bombs. We'll be fine.
Yeah, we fight vehemently for our Second Amendment right, and we believe in all these conspiracies and that they have alien technology, but we still think we're gonna win.
Yeah, with our freaking 9mm,
with our 9mm in our modified AKs or whatever, and they pull out a fucking laser rail gun and they start flying spaceships overhead.
They just drone bomb you, like
just alien tech. They're like, what is that thing, Jesse Ventura?
I wonder if there are people who believe the Earth is both flat and hollow somehow. Yes, probably. Yeah, that's probably. If you can think of an idiot thing, someone believes it.
Well, here's the deal: if the Earth is flat, shouldn't you be able to just drill down into the Earth and get to the other side eventually?
Oh, it's super thick.
How thick?
I don't know. Thick, like with 2 C's. Thick.
It's just, I want to see some flat earther that digs down into the mantle and like burns himself.
There's the whole ice wall thing because they hate, was it Richard E. Byrd because he explored all the Arctic stuff, but like, They think you can't get past the ice wall, but he spent like a year living there.
Yeah, twice.
Yeah.
They went back and forth from Antarctica twice on that expedition, and we've been back tons of times. And
Some people think the Nazis still have a secret base on the freaking in the Arctic.
if the Earth is flat, what's on the underside? Well, see, that's
Nothing. Space.
yeah, they don't know. Well, that's the thing. They'll go, we don't know. We don't know what's outside past the dome. We don't know. I don't know. Is it space? No, it's anything but space. They just okay. There's gaps in your theory. There's no gaps in my science. You know, there may be things we don't understand.
Even
how
if
they
there
work.
are gaps, they're much smaller. You can maybe jump over our gaps. Their gaps, even with a ramp, you're just falling straight in.
It's yeah, and I love their theory on how gravity works. Things are pulled down because of inertia, because we live on a disc
It's
that's just
straight
shooting
in
up.
there.
And they love to say that
also-
they're like, how am I on a globe that's spinning 1,000 miles an hour
And I can't feel
You
it.
know, I can't feel it. Are you fucking retarded? Like, if you sit in a car
Coffee
long enough,
upside down. Well, have they never been on a ride like you remember the cliffhanger at Six Flags?
yeah, as soon as you hit terminal velocity, you don't
You
feel like you're falling anymore.
But when you're going like you feel it, you feel the put pressure down on you. Like
Yeah.
your body feels it. They also think that as you get towards the edges of it, that effect increases.
Yes.
So it's harder to walk or get anywhere the closer you get to the ice wall.
That I'm trying to deconstruct some like fantasy thing that somebody came up with. So
I don't know. So mud fossils.
Yeah, that's the new conspiracy I found. I'm like really into mud fossils. This dude he
We
finds
sit on a giant space turtle. What's that old saying? What's under the turtle? Oh, it's turtles all the way down.
what?
It's from some book, but it's like a kid asking the guy if we're on the back of a giant turtle or what's under the turtle, and the guy looks at him and he goes, "Oh, it's turtles all the way down."
Oh, that turtle's on a bigger turtle.
It's actually a math principle too. I'd have to look it up. I forget it's a way to describe a certain math principle.
yeah, it sounds like exponents. Yeah, because you'd be that, it would have to be that, it would
But-
have to be 5 times.
Anyway, I'm new to the whole mud fossil thing.
I'm
I watched like
still not-
30 minutes of one of the videos you sent.
I am still not fully all the way, but that started with
King was right. Yeah,
I used to watch this show where they were searching for giants
Maturing the turtle.
because there's evidence. There's evidence. Well, I mean, it's in the Bible.
He's doing air quotes. So if you're listening, if you're
yeah,
just
yeah,
listening
sorry.
to, we're doing a lot of air quoting in this episode.
There's evidence, and there's passages in the Bible where you have the giants, you have titans and giants.
Yeah, the whole angels came down and bred with humans. You get the
Nephilim.
Nephilim and David and Goliath, and
David and
they
Goliath.
had 6 fingers or whatever.
Blah 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 blah. Yeah, so you have these giants or whatever, and they've been considered myth for a long time. But there is evidence, like people have found these giant skeletons all over the earth, right? Well, we're not to mud fossils yet, but this is what I was watching. People have found these giant humanoid skeleton. Just the human proportions are the same or whatever, but they're big. They're like 10 feet tall, 8 feet to 10 feet.
Oh, that's barely a giant. That's like a loser giant.
10 feet?
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
When I think giant, I think like 30 feet, like a Titan, like
That's a Titan.
like
but-
from Attack on Titan.
Oh, okay. So Titans are huge. Giants, when I'm talking about giants, we're talking about things that are like 10 feet tall. Okay. Anyway, people have found skeletons of people that are like 10 feet tall or whatever, and they think they were actually a race or whatever. And like some of those skeletons were sent to the Smithsonian and they came up missing. There's this big conspiracy about it or whatever. Well, there were these 2 guys that were searching for giants. It was on the History Channel. It was actually a really good show. I was watching it for a while. And they found this one area. They were getting close to it, and they were looking for it. Anyway, so giants. But I ended up on this.
Steven says, wasn't one of the books that didn't make it into the Bible the Book of Giants? I don't know because I'm not super educated about all those
I don't know.
missing Bible books they have.
I
under
can
the
look that up and
Vatican.
report back on it at a later date.
You talk. I'll Google it real quick.
But anyway, so I was watching the Giants show or whatever, and that was pretty cool. I ended up just getting rid of my cable, so I didn't have the channel. So I didn't see if they ever actually found a giant or if the Smithsonian came and slit everybody's throat, whatever that was going on. But
Oh yeah, it's an apocryphal Jewish book which expands on the Urzit to Inzit narrative of the Hebrew Bible. By its multifaceted elaborations on divine decrees of warning and doom, ties to the ancient prophet Enoch. Blah 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 blah. So yeah, that is one of the missing. So Emilius
Book of Enoch,
So
Giants
this
are mentioned quite a bit.
this is a tie-in to the Book of Giants. Was a tie-in to the Book of Enoch.
Yeah, and Enoch was the land that Cain was banished to.
That's Nod. Enoch was a
Oh yeah.
Enoch
Sorry,
was
sorry.
Enoch was a
Nod
prophet.
Yeah,
Cain was banished to the land of Nod.
that's correct.
But Enoch was a prophet of the Lord.
But anyway, I ended up on this side trail. You guys can look it up. It's mud fossils, and this guy's got this. What I was really surprised about is the guy's
awesomely insane.
It's awesomely insane, and the dude is really seems to be educated.
Smart. Once again, he's so freaking. Well, and you said once, could you imagine if all these people, these super intelligent people, got on the right track, things they could do?
Yeah. Like if I hate to say it, but some of the people that are like in the flat or the engineer Bob Nuttall or whatever, if he was working in a legitimate
for NASA,
like if he was working for NASA and didn't just believe the Earth was flat, the dude is probably a genius. He's like genius level smart, but it went awry.
I wonder if any flat earthers have ever tried to get into NASA.
I bet a lot of them are failed at it. Like they didn't get into NASA and they got mad about it, and things like that. I think a lot of them would be like disgruntled.
But I so much like getting entrenched in things, like when I research it, like the incel thing where I had to join all the forums and pretend like I was one of them.
Yeah.
That if I was a flat earther, I think that would be my goal, would be to get into NASA and like expose them.
Oh, I hated that. It made me so mad, that part of the documentary where Mark and Patricia, they go
to the museum,
to the NASA Aeronautic Museum or whatever, and they're like taking all these selfies and making fun of like hashtag lies and
he's
all
trying to make that one machine work, and he's like, this doesn't even work, and they pan over to the button that makes it work that he can't find.
Yeah. He's like, this is so stupid.
Whoever filmed that documentary is my hero.
Yeah, he's a freaking genius, because he was just like, I'm not gonna tell him, but look at that. Look right there.
But from what I saw of the mud fossils thing, is this guy's basically taking rocks, breaking them apart, and going, look, this is where the Superior Vena Cava would have been. You can tell because there's a hole in the rock here.
So his big theory, it's based off the idea of how trace fossils work. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a geologist, but if you don't know anything about trace fossils, that's when you don't find bones, but you find the imprint of something
like
that
the
died.
mold when you're making something.
Right, yeah. So trace fossils is like what you get down in Glenrose, like footprints and stuff like that. It's kind of that idea, but his theory is that biological matter, which would be like a body, like I just die and somebody leaves me here on the floor.
Mittens the cat from
the
Warehouse 9.
It's kind of like, it's a sort of mummification process. Mm-hmm. He's saying that certain minerals, specifically calcium, iron oxide, and other things, sometimes will attach itself to biological matter and transmute it into stone. The word, they will talk about a fossilization process being sped up quicker, and it's called electronic transmutation. First off, that's not don't believe that. Anything that says transmutation isn't a thing. That's like an old alchemy. It's you can't turn one type of matter into another type of matter. Like you can add particles and take particles away, and like you can change the core substance, mm-hmm. but you can't change one atom into another atom. Like, mm-hmm. it's not, you will never turn lead into gold.
Yeah, no.
That's not a thing. So
he's destroying the fossils. Yeah, basically, some of them he like breaks them apart.
Yeah. So what he does first is he just goes and walks
they're
around.
They're not fossils; they're just rocks.
Yeah. He'll just walk around, and what he'll do is he'll find a rock
that's vaguely shaped like a human heart or a
or
lung.
an organ. He'll find something that looks like an organ, and this is on the small scale. There's way bigger stuff than this. It gets ridiculous, but like he'll find one, and it's kind of shaped like a lung, and it's got like kind of weird veins. But the dude's really smart. He's like, look, you can see where the microvilli were at. You can see where the arteries connected and all this. This used to be a lung, but it's like a granite rock.
Like the size of my entire body.
Yeah. And his big thing is he's like, well, I talked to Yale about this theory and all that, and they basically laughed at me. And he said, well, what
do I have to do to prove it?
Yeah. And he goes, what if I get DNA testing to prove that it's biological
What if I
matter?
run it through an MRI machine? Yada, yada, yada.
And they, rightly so, Yale said,
Yeah, go do that.
He's like, yeah, if you come up with some new science that you can prove, yeah, we're going to...
Yeah, come back. We'll let you talk.
He acts like they were being unreasonable, but that they're not. They're saying, no, that defies conventional science. You're gonna need
Proof.
It'd be like if I called up Yale and was like, "Hey, I got proof that ghosts exist." They'd be like, "Well, what's your proof?"
Or evidence. They want evidence.
Yeah. And I would show them what we currently have, and they'd say, "No, it's flimsy."
And
Yeah,
so
it's-
the DNA testing really bothers me.
Yeah. He says he's DNA tested. Like he'll be going through his thing. He's like, "Yeah, this was DNA tested. This was DNA tested. This is DNA tested."
So he takes this rock that vaguely looks like a lung. Is he swabbing it? Because he's touched all over this rock. Other people have touched all over this rock. If he takes a Q-tip to that and swabs it, yeah, there's going to be freaking DNA on it.
He's got like 300 videos. 300.
Yeah, and I only watched like 2.
Yeah, I haven't been through all of them, but and I read a bunch of comments and a bunch of
Couldn't
people.
make it through the second one.
Oh, I'm gonna watch them all. But the dude, he's saying he's DNA testing, but he's not being specific about what he's doing, because DNA testing is at a microbiologic level. That's that's a genetic testing. How is he doing that? Because you wouldn't like stick a rock, like you'd give a rock to somebody to do genetic testing on, and there would be no genetics. If he's just taking like a swab and sending the Q-tip in, anything could be on that rock, because like me touching my desk leaves DNA.
Yeah, now there's DNA everywhere. You think?
Yeah. The oils in my hand.
Anytime you hear like a murder story, you're like, oh, he licked the envelope. There's DNA.
Yeah.
DNA is so easy to leave everywhere. My question was, is he like breaking up chunks of these rocks and sending them in? And when he's putting it in an MRI machine, like what is he trying to prove? Like that rocks have naturally occurring holes in them?
I don't know. I encourage everybody to look up mud fossils, but it gets even.
If you want to go down a really silly rabbit hole.
But how that relates to giants is because the rocks he's finding that look like organs are huge. Like he'll find a lung, but it's like this big, because the theory is that we're actually descendants of giants. And these mud fossils are his proof that giants existed at one point in time, but they didn't decay. They fossilized, they calcified into rocks. And so you go around and there's all this evidence that giants used to roam the earth, because you can find these rocks that look like organs. Like he brought one up that looked kind of like a wrist, and it had like some holes that went through it, and he's like, oh, that's where the
ulnar and radius were. Blah,
yeah.
blah.
And he knew like the names of all the vein. Like I think he has some kind of.
So do I, and I'm no genius.
I'm just saying I think he's got some kind of background in the medical field is where he's coming up with some of this, or he's just really well read and connected dots where dots shouldn't be connected, and he puts that together.
He's right at that curve on the oh my god, the Dunning-Kruger effect,
right,
where he knows just enough
to be dangerous,
to think he knows everything.
Right.
And it's that weird curve it has, where if you're super dumb, you're dumb. And if you're super smart, you don't know anything.
Yeah.
He's at that top part of the curve where you know just enough that you know everything.
Right.
He's me at 17.
Yes. But there's other people
that
that
explains basketball players. Oh, Giants.
There's people that have taken it even further, where they don't just think we're descendants of giants, they think we're descendants of titans. And they were showing pictures of this like mountain face. And they said this was like everything, like you were saying, like pre-flood era, everything just used to be bigger. They were showing this like rock face, and they said this tree was 10 miles high. And it's a pareidolia thing.
They're seeing patterns where there are no patterns.
Yeah, and they're finding these things, and they're finding mountains where it looks like somebody like sitting there, and they're like, that was a
reminds me
titan
of
that
the
just died there.
the giant string from Ender's Game. You know, after he kills the giant, and it just becomes like a mountain.
Yeah, it's exactly that. That's exactly what they think is going on.
Sounds like back in the day when they thought Cyclops roamed the world, and it was elephant skulls.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because they have that one orbital thing. But I don't know. It's interesting. But I even brought up pareidolia in there, and they told the response was hilarious. This was on Reddit, by the way. They said pareidolia is a pseudoscience. It's never been proven. It's something that science came up with so that they don't have to explain the reality of the things that
Except
are really
that the
going
way
on.
human brains work is that we look for patterns. That's how we've evolved and survived.
Yeah, I don't know this whole I'm getting into it because it's really cool. But I
You
need
find the best rabbit holes.
I need to find more research on it because I don't know if so I'm not a paleontologist and I'm not a geologist. I don't know if biological matter can calcify to the point that it turns into a stone-like substance. I don't know if that's true or not.
I know trees do.
Trees do petrify, and it turns into
It's basically a rock. I've had.
What do they call
of
it?
petrified tree.
Not petrichor.
Petrified wood.
Yeah, petrified. There's a specific name
know.
for it. Like it's got its own classification of what it is, but you think it's a rock, but it's actually wood. It's wood that is petrified. I don't know. It's really interesting. Like I said, I'm just now really starting to get into that. But that's a thing that's been going on for a while. But what was really interesting about it is, so like the guy I was watching, he's one of the experts, and then there's one other dude that's like the big head honcho for the mud fossils thing, and everybody was everybody. Hey, I think he's called like Dr. What's Up, or Wake Up. It's Wake Up or whatever is the dude's name, and so everybody was like, yeah, you got to watch them. They're the most convincing videos. Like, I was a skeptic until I saw it. I was like, okay, what's that all about? Went to his page, couldn't watch any of his videos because in the description, it also shows that he's a flat earther.
Tell you, if you believe one conspiracy, you were an easy mark for all the other conspiracies.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm really in love with the mud fossils thing. I'm really perplexed with the flat Earth thing. And did we find what the percentage of flat earthers that think young Earth is also a thing too?
No, we didn't.
I'm curious
But
what those numbers are.
because I'm on a lot of flat earther groups, and I never talk to the people because a lot of the times, if you even attempt to argue with them, they'll boot you.
Yeah.
So I pretty much just keep my trap shut.
Because you would
and
out
watch.
yourself by accident.
Yeah,
'cause you wouldn't be
and a
able to.
lot of them think the Earth is flat because they believe the biblical angle, the literal translation of the Bible, meaning the Earth is
And young
only
earthers
6,000
think
years old.
How old?
6,000, about 6,000 years
6,000.
old. Basically, they start with Adam and Eve, and they count the lineage of the people in the Bible. And
I
that's
feel like
how
a lot of
the
times
Earth
I
is.
promote science so much on our show and in our work and stuff that I feel like people might think I'm telling them that God can't exist or that spirituality shouldn't be a thing or anything like. Oh, well, but no, you choose to believe what you choose to believe, but you don't necessarily try to convince you.
I don't give a crap what other people.
Yeah,
believe. As long as it's not hurting anybody.
Yeah. You give out facts about what we find, and that's simply that. And I don't think it's ridiculous for people to believe in God or to be religious or anything, as long as they're.
Depends on their religion.
Well, I'm talking within reason, but what I was going to say is it's fine to believe in like spiritual things, like the paranormal or a deity or something, but don't discredit the science with it. I think if you're a logical person, you can find a way to make it coexist in your head. If you have to throw proven facts out the window to fit your idea of what the world is, then you're doing something wrong at that. That's that cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
If I have to ignore something that I know 100% to be true through education and research and things like that, if I have to throw all that out to continue to believe that, and they can't coexist, then that thing is a fantasy. That's not something that can exist in its current state. And I think that is dangerous when you choose to ignore fact over fiction. But if you can find a way to reconcile the two,
Yeah.
which I do a lot. Like I've talked. I'm not necessarily.
I know a lot of Christians that also believe in evolution. I mean,
It's you think of the Bible in forms of a metaphor. You can think of a higher power or things, being a certain way, or you can be a fatalist, but still believe that science is a thing. Like you don't have to wholeheartedly subscribe to just one thing or the other. You can find ways to, the way I always did it as a kid is I said, well, the Bible was written a long time ago. We don't understand the concept of time, how God thinks of it. He says 2,000 years, but what the hell does that mean
or
to us?
like my preacher thought, God created the earth in 7 days, but like, what is 7 days to him?
Right, yeah. What is 7 days to him? The Bible talks about this flooding of the world. Well, in that region, that was the whole
world.
Yeah, everything between the Tigris and the Euphrates and down, the world wasn't explored to that group of people past that. So
there was
when
nothing else to them.
when that flooded, it was the world, and it's just. And another thing, the wise men followed the star that got him to Jesus. Well, a lot of people reconcile the star was so bright because a supernova happened to happen at the time. And a lot of people will hear that and say, oh, well, you're just trying to discredit religion with science. Well, maybe God made a supernova happen to make the wise men see the star and go...
I've heard people say, well, maybe God created the Big Bang. Now, I don't think that, but I think that's a good way to reconcile.
It's a very easy way to, because what happened before the Big Bang? Because well, I took a lot of classes on specifically the Big Bang and gravity. Of course, we could still be in the Big Bang now, and we wouldn't know it because it's relative distance. That's how relativity works. But you have to. Immediately when people think, okay, the Big Bang, if the entire universe was smaller than a pinhead, smaller than an atom before it exploded, what's outside of that space, outside of that reality? And that's a good question because science doesn't have an answer for that. The answer for that could be God, or it could just be another universe, universes colliding.
I just don't like the whole God of the gaps thing. I don't understand it, therefore God. I don't like that attitude some people have, as opposed to there's a gap here, so we need to do more to learn about it and to understand it. And science evolves over time; it's not a set thing.
Yeah, and just because you proved old science wrong, or improved upon it, or added to it, doesn't mean that people that came up with that science before are like stupid
or trying to fleece you or
that it's inferior. They
were working with what they had at the time.
They're working with what they had at the time. And so that's what I want the takeaway to be. The great tragedy of this is you should be questioning science, even if it's solid science.
Even scientists question that's half their job.
That's how you come up with new science. I mean, to this day, we question relativity. We question physics. We're finding out that dark matter might actually be a thing, but it's not the thing we thought it was. We're finding out that photons get lost in transit, and we think it might be interdimensional travel. But we might figure out that no, just photons sometimes
disappear,
out, and do things. It's as that science progresses. So always question science. I'm not bagging on these people for questioning science. I'm not bagging on them for being stupid. They're actually really smart in their take, and
they're smart and curious, which is an important part of science.
And so
Emilio says, I think it's Buddhism, could be wrong, but they believe our existence is just a single breath of Brahma, God. The universe is created when he exhales and destroyed when he inhales.
Right, and there's and that also goes along with this this really cool creation story I heard where
Steven wants me to hold up my right arm.
Oh yeah, Sarah got a new tattoo.
I can't really.
Here, let me see if I can. That would be your Congregation of Owls alchemy tattoo that goes along with my new alchemy tattoos too.
Anyway.
But there was this cool creation story I heard where God, where there's the turtle under the turtle, but there's like an all powerful, and then God comes in, and then when he opens his eye, God comes into existence. The Yahweh we know, right? And then the thing is once the great eye closes, he will cease to exist. So
his job is to try and keep God from blinking.
Right. So he comes up with this clever plan by creating the universe, and the dogma is that the universe will live on eternally as long as he lives or whatever. And since it all conflicts, it keeps the great eye from closing so that he can exist. So God creates the universe in that story out of a act of self-preservation. I find it really interesting. It's part of like Judea dogma. But yeah, I know I'm trying to wrap up on it.
You're fine.
What I wanted the takeaway to be though is what I hate about society and us as intellectuals, we're handling this situation wrong. Very dire. It's real easy for us to get on here and make fun of people. It's real easy for us to bag on people that seem less intelligent or that we know they're getting it wrong or whatever. And the reason they're so buried into this is because we act that way, because they're ostracized, because they can't come back. If somebody was a flat earther and they came back to it, we would still think we'd still make fun of them. We'd be like, remember that time you thought the fucking earth was flat? Jimmy, you're a retard.
Yeah, you can never live anything down.
You can't do that. And we have to be better on our side of it and more open to helping them explore their idea and coming to the conclusion that it's wrong in a nurturing way. And
having discussions with them that don't make them feel bad. Having discussions with them that make them want to continue the discussion.
Yeah, we got to quit burning people with different ideas at the stake. Just immediately. Like, yeah, they're wrong. But and yeah, you need to show them how they're wrong, but we have to stop doing it in a way that's accusatory. Because the thing is if you can get them to the correct conclusion through that process, then they can actually become an asset to the rest. Because these are the people we actually need to further our society. If these people were on our side, we wouldn't have a climate problem. If these people were on our side, we would have more answers about the paranormal. The space program would be better. The economy would be better. Because these are questioning people where the wheels are always turning. It's the correct course of action, and we're not handling it well on our side of the line. And I want to see that improve, but I don't know how. But that was the real underlying part of the topic is how do we do that?
Yeah.
I mean, do you have any ideas?
No.
Well,
besides just have conversations with them and don't call them idiots.
Yeah, just don't be condescending about it like I am. I mean, that's my big thing when we're at the meeting. Like, I have to have somebody rein me in when I'm starting to talk at people instead of to people.
Yeah.
Because, and we're all, I think everybody's guilty of it. If you're an expert in something, or maybe not even an expert, but if you're knowledgeable about something that somebody else isn't, you may like explaining things. And even if it's not like your real motive, at least part of you likes that superiority. And
it's human nature.
And there's a part of me that likes that superiority, that I know something you don't know, and it lords me over somebody else to try to educate. And my real motive is I want to further humanity or further your knowledge. But, there's that little subconscious id in the back of everybody's head that does that. So I guess just try to be more conscious of that in the future when you guys are talking to people.
Yeah, Julie says respect. Even if you think they're stupid, respect them.
Yeah, because also you don't know what led them up to that point in their life to get there. Like, people have reason. People don't just suddenly become stupid. Like, there are things that happen in people's life to get them to the points they're at. So empathy goes a long way in trying to understand things from their perspective. But I don't know. Everybody be nice to each other, and if you guys can think of good ways to kind of help that facet of what we're doing, because it only makes us better. Like, we work with other paranormal groups. Emilio's on here where we've decided to collaborate on the jail thing. Like, they're doing their own research. We're doing or not the jail, the warehouse thing. they're doing their own research, we're doing ours, but we're going to share it back and forth. And even though we have different beliefs about how the paranormal and things like that work, we're going to collaborate in a productive way.
Yeah, and we'll
show
probably will learn more too by doing that. Like, I think you're missing learning opportunities by ignoring these people.
And I'm sure they'll come up with some stuff and some ideas that are going to be hard for me to swallow as somebody that's like a pure science, and I'll say, oh, that's not quite accurate, but I won't be able to prove it wrong. And so it'll still be valid. And then I'm going to have some things that I want to throw out, and they're not going to like it too much. But what they're going to do is they're going to put a disclaimer on it that says somebody disagreed with this a little bit, but it's still valid because it wasn't completely proved wrong. There's a middle ground in there where we can still continue to develop, and I really like that about them. And I think we have an opportunity to set a really good example for our for the paranormal community and stop being as condescending as we are. So we're going to try to get a little bit better about that, but we're still going to make fun of people because that's our thing.
That's who we are as people.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, have a good night.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah. We're out of here.